which means essentially I'll not have desk and beds included in my data set. So that's the example of an inner join. Now, if I make a join using the full outer, it would essentially carry the other two data tables, but wherever the value is missing, it will indicate a null value. So I will have both. So this was the example of inner join. Now I'm doing something called full join. For full join, I'll have all the data with me, desk and beds. So for the desk, I have the price, which is 100, but I don't have the sales figure. For beds, I have a quantity which is 30, but not the price. So this will be the full join. So do you get what's inner join, outer join, or inner join, full join, left and right join? Now apart from this, there is another functionality that Tableau offers, which is called a union. What's a union? Essentially, if I have another table which is very similar to, say, this left table, but then it has set of new furniture items in it with the same price, with the price details, it would get appended to this table. Say if I have beds, mattresses, pillows as third table, and I essentially want to append these two tables together, I can do that with the union function. So this is the very basic idea of doing a join. Is it clear? So we will not be able to see whether the join has really happened because the data is washed, and if we have to analyze whether the join really did take place within Tableau, you'll have to find out those unique sets and identify whether the join has happened. So this is how the join would work, and I'm assuming that you understand this is what happens within Tableau. So for this example, what I'm going to do is I have the orders on my left and global superstore returns on my right, and I'm making a left join. So you would see return order ID region along with the other columns from the orders data set. So the orders data set have been highlighted in blue. The returns data set are in light orange. So we'll just talk about some data manipulations, or what do you call information from metadata. So what is metadata? Anyone? Deprogramming? What would be a simple definition for metadata? It's data about data, right? It essentially tells what this thing is all about. So if you really want to see the data about data, you go to sort fields. And it shows you various columns along with what's the description. In here you don't have too much of a data dictionary, but that would give you a basic idea of what a metadata is. Now you can modify these things. What I mean by modification. So let's look at the row ID. Now row ID, if you go to that particular column and to the top left corner, if you hit, it allows you to change the data type. So it's indicated as a number, whole number. Now if you want to convert it to string, you can do it here. You do this because sometimes when you export CSV files, by default, CSV files, as you know, are strings. In that case, you can do this data manipulation and convert them to numbers so that the system recognizes them as numbers. Okay? Now, what else can you do? If you look at this particular column, you've got 4 keys separated by a comma. Now, the first key within this order ID essentially refers to the region, probably, maybe California, Indianapolis, or something like that. So I want to, and then the next part is essentially the year in which that key was generated. So is there a way I can split this
single row into 4 different rows. Okay, so I can do that. So I do it here. So what I do, I can go for a split option. If I click the split option, it would get automatically split into 4 columns based on the number of delimiters. So it's 1, 2, 3 delimiters, which means I would end up getting 4 columns. What I mean by a delimiter is the space or some symbol between 2 characters. So let's see the split. Okay, right. Yeah. There you go. Now you have that big serial key split into 4 unique parts. So you have order ID split 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if you want to retain this data as is, you can. Now, I'm going back and I'm doing a custom split. So what's a custom split like? So I use, it's pretty similar to undo redo, the way we have in Explorer or any web browsers. So again, I'm going to order ID and then I'm trying to split them based on a custom split. So use the separator. So they have already given me quite a few options. So I say it's the dash, and the first dash, whatever content is before the first dash, that's what it's going to pick. And I say okay. So I have, let's call it order ID region. So I have a new column created. So in this view, essentially, I can do the basic data manipulation or giving in a metadata, stuff like that. So that's what I do in this particular view. So I hope you understand how do you import the data set, what are different kinds of join. And within join, let me again mention, so you have the data source and you also need to specify what's the primary key. So for my data source or data set, which is orders, I've used order ID as my primary key. So it's going to map order ID with the order ID in the global superstore return data set and generate a new data set based on left join. So this is what I did in this view. And once I have this entire system set up, I can go into my analysis phase and essentially go into the worksheet. That's sheet 1. Has everybody done that?
No.
Do you want to do it?
I have
Quickly.
a few questions actually.
Yeah.
So I got lost around the orange bar thing.
Okay.
Can you talk about the orange bar and what that means and what?
All right. So the orange bar, I hope you're referring to this orange bar here?
Actually, that and how it pertains to the one that's on the top of your.
Yeah, okay. So if you look at the orange bar, it essentially identifies that data set with the column headings generated off that data set. What I mean by that is, so the region, comes from the data set global superstore return, whereas the row ID, order ID, and everything else is from the orders data set. So that's the blue one here. You can see it under the connections as well. So blue is the orders data set, orange is the returns data set. Is it okay? Not necessarily. It could be, it's just to mark the data sets. So visually you are aware that the column comes from the data set which is marked in that color. So it's kind of an identifier. It's just a visual help, so that you're not confused as to where the data set, where the column or the data element is coming from, which data set. Any other questions so far? Yeah.
When to use what join? How do you use it?
When do you use which join? Okay. Now, before you import any kind of data set, you essentially need to understand what your data set is. So if you have, say, 2 different data sets like this, I need to understand data set on my right has the sales data mapped to the furniture type, and data set on my left side has the price. So this is a basic example. But I need both the informations together because I'm going to work based on an aggregated information. Now, what would be a real world scenario? Assume this data set comes from my shop floor where the thing has actually moved. And this data set comes from the finance department. So I need to understand what would be that primary key that I can use to actually combine these two data sets together. And essentially, would that give me a larger data set that has a complete data that I can work on for visualization? Is it okay?
So, then why didn't we use full order in that case?
We can use full order. We can use full order. But if we use full order, it would be bringing in all the entire, whatever data set is there within the entire file. You can use that here as well. I just used left data set. Now, why I used a left data set is because I'm going to work on essentially stuff that was only required within the global, the orders file. So I can use a left data set. So I'm going to use the order ID to fetch in data from the returns of the store. So I used left join. You can use full order as well. But then that would grab in the entire data set. It might not be required. Any other questions?
So for the left order, it will grab the IDs that are in the orders file or in the orders table and will update the whole record or the whole raw. And if it is the right, it will do the same. For
Yeah, it's essentially, let's just take a look at this one. Okay. So I have two data sets, and for the orders data set, the first primary, I thought the primary key was the row ID. Okay, then I have the order ID. Now in here, for the returns data set, I have returned order ID and the region. Now what would be the primary key that Tableau would be referring to?
order
To
ID.
build, it would be the order ID. So it's going to look at the order ID and pull out data based on the table or the data set to the left. So what is the table or the data set to my left that I have already indicated, or which is my primary data set now? That would be the orders. So orders, so the order ID within the orders data set would become my filtering criteria to pick order IDs from the global returns data set. Clear? Yeah.
So can we take like more than 2 tables and make connections from them too?
Can I add more than one table? Let me see. Yeah, but only underneath.
Okay.
So
the
I
connection
cannot
will be
create
made-
a parallel connection. I can only create a parallel connection, but not now again. This people data is essentially getting joined with the orders data. Can I do it with, so because this is your primary data section or the primary data set, so whatever new data set that you add is going to get attached in reference to your primary data set.
Mhm. So it will have no connection with the above.
Now it has the connection because it is connected through the orders data set to the global returns data set. So because you have data from all the three data set coming up populated into your one entire data set. Any other questions? I'm removing it from the time frame because I don't need it in my next stage of analysis. I go to sheet 1. Okay. So again, just like market site and Google Analytics, now you will be familiar with dimensions and measures. So what are dimensions? Dimensions would be your categorical variables that help you to identify something. And measures are essentially matrices that would give you numbers or figures relating to something. So let's just get started with some basic analysis. So let's say
Oh my god, really?
Nothing surprises me.
You try your math again? This is a new computer or
Oh no, this is like 2014.
2014? I
So
mean
5 years.
the computer you lost?
Oh, I just left it at work. I never lost it.
Huh?
I didn't. I just left it at work that one time.
Yeah.
The same one.
Okay. Oh, time machine.
oh,
Should we adopt comes from the screen?
something wrong with the cable, so I'll have to change it next class. Okay, let's do some basic drill downs. So what I mean by a drill down, it's basically looking at filters the way we did for pivot tables. So I'm going to grab, it's pretty easy and laid out. So let's say I start with markets and I put it into my column header. And then I select category. Where do I have category? Okay, I have category here into my rows. So that essentially builds a table right in front of you with markets based on regions and the 3 total category of products that we have. Now, if we want to look at, say, different segments within this category, how do we do that? So we're going in segments. So I have within furniture 3 new segments. So different segments within 3 category of products. But I still don't have any, so these are all, as I said, dimensions. So these are categorical stuff. Now I need to add some figures to it, right? So I go to measures, I grab sales, and I put it as a column. So now I have sales across different markets for different category of products among their different segments. Can I make it better? I put sum of sales. What I do is I grab sales and put colors.
We get the different label.
Okay, let me do it again. So I think I should. I'll show it again. So I decide the dimensions that I want to work with. So I say markets. And I'm going to compare that with different category of products. And I say I want to see the sales within each category. And I also want to look at the is segments. Oh, before I go to segments, let's just look at the, is there a different, better way to color code it? So now can I add segments to it? Yes. Now within sales, if you see, it shows you the sum of sales. Is there any other data that you can derive out of it? Or is there a way to change the sum to some other function? I can also change it to average. So if I go to measure, I can do that. And it shows me the average sales for each region according to different product and their category and segments. So this is a basic drilled down version of the entire data set. So now you can visualize what's happening across each market. I'll come back to it as some. All right. Let's save this data set as sales across markets. Now again, is there a way I can play around with this data set? Can I copy this data set, or can I extract the data out of just this tabulation that just this visualization that I've created? To do that, what I do is I select, I right click, and I go to copy and say, grab the data of this data set. What can I do with that? So if I have an Excel, I can essentially paste that data, just the plain data, based on the stuff that I've analyzed into the Excel data set. So it shows me basic stuff that I'm looking at as a visualization in here. So that's one way of exporting that complete data set. Now, what are the other functions that you can do in this view? You can swap the axis. To swap the axis, so you have a button right in the middle. If you hit that, your visualization changes to something like this. Now it all depends on the way you want it. Can everybody replicate this for me? Can you try doing it? Any questions so far? So where should I start? Like the entire thing? Okay, from the Excel file. So I have this visualization created in here. Now I want to grab the data of this visualization, the plain numbers and the dimensions. What I do is I right click on the visualization, go to copy and select data. So this copies the data of this visualization, which I can control paste in an Excel file or any other file. So essentially it's getting grabbed as a text file. So you can paste it even in, you should be able to paste it even within. So again, this is a text file, but this file does not have any delimiters. So it would be ideally better if you save it as an Excel file. So that's just one feature that I wanted to show. Okay, let's do some more drill downs. Let's talk about how we are performing across years for different products. So let's look at, so where do I have here? Okay. So I'm going to use shipment date. That becomes my year of shipping. And I'm going to look at sales. So it shows me sales across different years. Do I have a better? Oh, I can use the order date as my, yeah. Okay, I used the order date as a column element and sales as my row element. Now it shows me the sales across 4 different years. Okay. So as I see, the sale has increased. So that's the conclusion that I make out of this visualization. Now can I drill down further? So if I hit the plus symbol, the summation symbol in here, whatever the year was made of or was logically related to, it was related to 4 different quarters. So I can split the data and look at 4 different quarters. So now I have quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4 for each different years. So what happens if I grab it to the front? So now I have 4 different, so I'm looking at each quarter across the year. So essentially, what I can conclude from this visualization is that across the years, the sales in each quarter has climbed or has increased. Can everybody do this?
Yeah.
What?
Dimensions.
Okay. Now let's add some more dimensions to it and see what else can we do with this. Now as I said, we had a sum of sales. So what I'm going to do is add the order ID again. Now I'm able to classify them and I can color code them into 4 different years. So can everybody do that? Yeah. So what I did is just to color code the entire 4 different years into 4 different colors. I grabbed the order date. Let's do it again.
They are labeled.
I grabbed the order
When you drag them.
order date. Where is order date? Yeah, order date, and dropped it on the colors palette within marks. Can you do that? Is everybody able to see the same visualization I'm saying? What did you do? Oh no, did you get something like this? Yeah. So what you need to do is grab quarter and put it beside years. So whatever visualization that you're trying to achieve, it has to make some sense. Okay, so please make sure of that. Now, let's pull it back to years. Let's remove the colors and let's analyze this by product category maybe. Category. Is there a better way of doing it? Oh yes. So this is how categorical sales happen. Now, So let's save this data as. Okay. Before we do that, let me do something else.
Okay. What? It look like Chinese glass.
For short legged people. The middle's like downstairs.
Okay.
Now, so what I'm going to do now is, so I hope all of you can pull yourself back to this section. So you have year and sales. Now I want to look at how it is with respect to category. So what I'm going to do is just grab category and drop it within my colors. So it essentially highlights different sales for 3 different products across 4 different years. Now, as I said, I can use sums or I can convert them as averages. So does that tell a different story? So that's what you need to analyze. So I'm pulling it back to sums. Now, can I look at it across different quarters? Yes. Pull it back. Is there anything else interesting that we can do here? It's a question of this, so you can tell me what you need to see and we'll try working on that. So let's now look at across markets. There you have. Now many a time you're tempted to use visualization like this, but it's very confusing, because you have all the markets in here and it's not clear. So one way to work on that is to use filters. So you add whatever you wanted and paste it within the filter. Now it shows you for some specific market. So I want to add all 3 together. Now it's for 3 different markets. So I can use filters to filter into different data set, different dimensions. So that's some basic functionalities, some drill downs. So you can work around with all this again to see if there is any new insight that you can discover. So I hope that's clear. And I go to the next thing. So let's call it YOY sales. Now I'm building a new table. So now what I'm going to do is build some cross tabs and see whether I can color code those cross tabs for better analysis. Quarter and year again. So let's do order date. And I want them with respect to market. Or maybe instead of sales, let's look at profits. Now, instead of something like this, what about converting it to a cross tab? So this this is my basic crosstab. Now again, does this color coding help you? It helps you to look at which years you had essentially good sales within the regions and how high the sales have been. Now this does not give you a full picture, so let's add more dimensions in here. Say let's add these segments. Maybe add different quarters. So I have now segment-wise tabulations. It looks better. Is there a better way to visualize this? I'm going to edit colors. I say step colors. Let's say orange. 4 steps. I say okay.
Can you back up a second? Can you go back to the crosstab? How did you change it to a crosstab?
Yeah.
Okay, alright. So, did you guys get this thing set?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I do is, I click on sheet and I say duplicate as a crosstab. So once I duplicate it as a crosstab, it should give me the basic crosstab of the visualization that I created.
Wait, if you guys use your fingerprint as a
Once I have the crosstabs in here,
it's not mine.
I can go ahead adding more data so that it becomes clearer to me what's happening within the entire
My
page.
iPhone, I just
Now,
use my
more
touch.
dimensions.
I don't have a password.
What I
I just
mean by
use my
dimensions
fingerprint.
is, as I said, I added the segments. I filtered down from year to quarter.
Create one.
Now I can go one step further. Now I have what you call essentially the profit across different months. I can swap the axis now. Now it shows you the cross tabulation for different quarters, different kinds of products. That's too much data. So let's kill something in here. Okay, still too much data. Sorry. Still too much data. Let's. I think I can kill the seconds. Or maybe add seconds. Still too much data. So instead of the markets, let me look at the segments. So yeah, so this is what I essentially am trying to do, but the visualization is not a good one. So you'll have to think about it. I'm just thinking off my mind now, so. Now it shows you the entire view of standard is a better view because it allows you to scroll. So now it's color coded to show you where and when you had a higher amount of sales. So the darker it is, the higher the values, the higher the profits. Okay. Now coming back to this one, there's something else that I can do here. So I'm just going back to my sales data again. So as I said, here I have divided them into different categories. Now this is my basic sales data. Now if I want to compare, say, two different ways of representing this data. Now this one essentially shows you year-on-year sales, YOY sales. Now I want to add another sales figure to it. So here I am trying to do the average, or